The goal of the marketing team is to get the return as fast as possible so that we can fix the back-end leaks in the form of cash conversion cycle. If we could have marketers look at unit economics holistically, not ignore variable costs because they eat a lot of the margin along the way. And it's not just about marketing, it's also about gross margins. And if we can have that level of holistic view, then marketers will be more irreplaceable, so to speak, because you speak the language of the founder or business owner or your client. If you want to build an average business, you focus on averages, right? But then if you want to look at the opportunities, you got to look at the distribution of values. The most effective one is simple, is just creating new good products.
Welcome back to Klaviyo Geeks. We're so excited to be back. Omar, say a quick hello.
Yes. Hello, everyone. So, man, time flies. It's interesting.
It does indeed. And somehow we ended up getting into this guest thing where we're kind of having people, take our spotlight. I'm not too happy about that, but it's fine. It's for the good of our audience.
No, well, actually, if we think about how we go about this, it's about adding value to all the listeners, all the people that are joining this podcast, that are watching it on YouTube or Spotify. Don't forget to hit like. But anyway, for us, it's most importantly to add value, to have and to give context on things that allow them to do things better as well. Like we say in every podcast, if we would have started back then, this would have been the information I would want to have had starting out my career. So yeah, and that's also, I think, the guests that we're going to be adding to these podcasts are also the ones that we think are adding value or that have made a change in our perception, how we look at things. So at least from my side, I'm not sure about you, Bogdan.
No, couldn't have said it better. Indeed, I think that's the goal. You know, we had our first episode where we talked about kind of the reason we started this in the first place, to just have an avenue where a lot of this new generation of retention marketers can learn from. And I think, coming from K London, where we were a few weeks back as well, a lot of people like stopping us on the event floor and asking questions and being so excited. That was kind of like confirming what we already thought. But today, in today's episode, we are joined by someone who has built tools, frameworks, and a whole community around one mission: to help DTC operators stop guessing and start making decisions with financial clarity. So Omar, would you like to introduce our guest
definitely.
For today?
So before I do, where's your shirt, Bogdan?
It's
this is our new uniform, man. Anyway,
I'm sorry, mine is in the washer because I've worn so much at the K London. Yeah. So yeah, but imagine I'm gonna CGI it on my t-shirt.
All right, cool. So today I want to really welcome someone who I've been talking to in the last, I think, year and a half or so, nerding out on data, on like how do you measure things correctly, how do you find the things that actually are important in making business decisions. I really, really found that he wanted to join this podcast as well to share some of his insight and things that he has been seeing. His name is Valentin Kuznetcov, and I hope I've said it right.
Almost got that right. It's
you
fine.
got it.
You know what? I'm not even going to cut that. I'm going to leave that in there.
So, and he'll basically reveal how to master the numbers that actually matter. So, Valentin, really stoked to have you here. For the listeners out there, Valentin has been one of the persons that I basically have been following along. If you haven't, look at his LinkedIn feed. He is sharing value bombs after value bombs. Maybe do a quick intro, and then we'll kick it off with questions.
Oh, gentlemen, thank you for the kind intro. And you got my last name pretty well, like better than 99% of people. So it's good enough.
Well, in business terms, that would actually move the needle, right?
Exactly. That would move the needle. And that's the name of the community that we're launching. But yeah, very excited to be here and share some of the knowledge and insights that translate into meaningful outcomes from the retention side. And we'll talk more about that, of course. But yeah, I come from corporate finance and private equity, scaled businesses from low seven figures to 8 figures, mid 8 figures. And along the way, I built frameworks and calculators, like you mentioned, that actually connected finance with marketing. And I thought, hey, why don't we bring all of those tools and all of those frameworks and calculators and strategies into one place? And that's how Move the Needle community has come up to become something. And I'm very excited that this is the go-to destination for a lot of marketers and operators, especially email marketers. I know there's some confusion about what kind of value this community can bring if some of you have seen it on LinkedIn, but I'm 100% sure that you will get tremendous value from it and you will learn everything I know. And I get hit up all the time on LinkedIn from clients. Where can we learn more about finance in D2C context? And there's no such place, to be honest, if I'm very honest about it, right? There's a lot of fractional CFOs who do an incredible job on the finance alone side, but there's nobody really connecting the dots between finance and marketing. Maybe Common Thread Collective is one of those communities that are getting closer, but they're very heavy marketing, not so much finance. And I want to balance it out a little bit better. So that's how Move the Needle community has come up. And that's what I've been really building for the last few months.
Cool, really cool. And yeah, I've seen some of these calculators, also his way of thinking and frameworks. I've not seen something alike yet. So definitely something. We'll post a link to that community as well. Definitely look it up. I mean, you only get smarter on things. So
for our audience, that should be more important. Like we come from a background like, Klaviyo marketers. Like honestly, it's tainted with a lot of people that they get lost in these sort of like attribution dashboards and saying, look how much growth we generated for our clients. But realistically, when you look, and I'm not trying to trash my own industry, but when you look at the world of email marketing agencies and email marketing freelancers, like I would bet anything that 95% of them don't look at the right data. So Valentin, honestly, I'm super excited to talk with you today because I think this is going to be a bit of an eye-opener for a lot of people and maybe for myself as well, for Omar as well. He's not very data-driven, I heard.
No, I'm always looking at these things. And for me, that's also a reason to have you here, Val, because it will help us all as a community to start looking at the right numbers.
Perfect.
So for me, this is like the most important. What business value are you delivering? And how do you measure and track this correctly outside of open and click rates, which is nice, but in the end, you're doing something to get a result. And we've talked about this as well in the previous episodes. In the end, is also the drive, retention, maybe even acquisition, to make sure people come back and do that in a way that you can measure it correctly as well. So
that's right.
Bogdan, you want to go ahead with the first question?
Right. So, okay. For a bit of context, we're going to cover 3 sections, okay? Omar and I tend to go a bit too deep into the answers, and we end up having 2-hour podcasts. So we're not going to put a cap on how long you can answer. Just, feel free to spend as much time as you want on the answer. But the first part we're going to talk about today is strategy. And I've been deep diving a bit into your LinkedIn profile and a lot of the links that you have there. And you have something called the Optimal Numbers Program, correct?
That's right.
So you talk a lot about unit economics clarity in that program. So what I wanted to ask you is, what do you feel most marketers miss when it comes to profitability?
That's a good question. In the unit economics context, what we need to understand is how much margin do we make or lose at each stage of business cycle. And a lot of marketers get this wrong because what they like to do is they like to simplify it, oversimplify it. Of course, simplification is good, but oversimplification can be more damaging than good. And what they typically do is they bundle all critical stages of product creation, product distribution, product delivery into one place and just say, yeah, that's the margin. That's what we're going to go with without really dissecting it to its key components. And anything that has material impact should be looked at individually and understood very deeply, because that's where you can move the needle, right? And really find the opportunity to increase margin and boost profitability for any brand. And that's what the unit economics analysis really does. For one of my recent engagements with an 8-figure brand, what I've done is I went very deep into what their unit economics is. And we will look at the variable costs. And those are, there's so many of them. Cost of goods sold. And the cost of goods sold can be broken down into landed cost and then freight and then import duties and then packaging and materials. You break all of those down to as much detail as possible, and then you start evaluating comparatively what has the dynamic been over time. So you look at the time series unit economics analysis. We've been making investments in marketing. We understand those investments. Is there a correlation or relationship with how margin performs over time? Because if we spend more money on ads, do we reach economies of scale as we increase the budgets? Do we sell more units? Does that translate into meaningful savings on the margin side? And if we can identify those opportunities, we can then find ways to focus on something in particular. For example, shipping and carrier fees is the biggest overlooked opportunity on the margin side and huge, link to profitability. A lot of marketers, what they typically do is they look at the basic or average cost, and they say, yeah, well, typically it costs us $12 on average to deliver, an order. And they link that to the AOV in terms of percentage. And they say, yeah, so it's about 12% because our AOV is $100, 12%. So let's keep it that way when we scale, our ads. But that's not how it works. First of all, if your AOV goes up, you ship more units, the likelihood of the carrier fees going up is marginal because there's a base of carrier fees. But then every incremental unit that you sell on top of that incurs an incremental cost. And as a result, you reach economies of scale because you're processing more units. The carrier fees are going down as a result. So the percentage, as a percent of AOV, it goes down. The value itself might be slightly higher. Now, on the flip side is the averages are averages for a reason. If you want to build an average business, you focus on averages, right? But then if you want to look at the opportunities, you got to look at the distribution of values, right? So you look at the carrier fees, you go into ShipStation, if you use ShipStation, you pull a report and you look at different regions, you look at different geographies, and then you see, okay, so our logistics center is in Pennsylvania or let's say Germany if you're in Europe, right? If we ship to one country or one state versus another, how much more expensive or how much more costly does it get for us to fulfill in that region? And then we can distribute our ad spend or our focus accordingly on the marketing side. And same goes for email marketing, right? We can identify specific customer segments within, let's say, a specific geography. And we can figure out a direct mail campaign, for instance, or an email marketing campaign based on unit economics for that specific geography. So what I like to do as well, not only do I look at unit economics on average, as time series, I also like to look at unit economics by country and unit economics by specific geographies that we're interested in. So it can be states, it can be big cities, whatever has meaningful implications for the business. So that would be the biggest opportunity for marketers. If we could have marketers look at unit economics holistically, not ignore variable costs because they eat a lot of the margin along the way. And it's not just about marketing, it's also about gross margins. And if we can have that level of holistic view, then marketers will be more irreplaceable, so to speak, because you speak the language of the founder or business owner or your client. And you know that I'm not just looking at marketing, I'm also looking at the implications on the gross margin side. And this is how it could be meaningful for you as a business. And that's the kind of value I'm providing as a partner.
Wow. That goes deep. I think most of our listeners were like, wait, what? A lot of new terms introduced for those that do understand it. Yes, rewind. If you have questions, like on YouTube, I think on Apple as well. I'm not sure we can do that on Spotify as well. But do feel free to drop your questions below.
Yeah, we can.
We'll
they can
relay them back to Valentin to make sure to answer those questions, or we'll answer them ourselves as well.
They can ask questions on Spotify as well, so that should be easy.
So based on what you just said, what are some of the, you calculate something, you come up with, you see what has been the case for so far, scaling up, scaling down. How do you bring this back to strategy? Do you then say, okay, we shouldn't spend so much in a specific area and focus more on this area? Or do you, for example, maybe say more or less discounts, because that's something that happens a lot in email marketing CRM. I see a lot of discounts getting used without even having the knowledge what impact and implications those have. Or even maybe say, okay, you know what, we should start charging for specific carriers too. And we were at K London and we were, Rory Sutherland was talking about this specific things when adding shipping options and adding a price and giving people the option to choose the carrier actually increases conversion as well. But how do you come up with Where do you go from there? Like, what are some of the strategies you've seen that you have from that?
Yeah, that's a good follow-up question. I'll give you an example. One of my clients has several countries that they work with: United States, Canada, Australia, some countries in Europe, Middle East, Singapore. So when we look at the unit economics by country, not only do we see the differences in average order value, we also observe differences in shipping and carrier fees. And in some regions, the margin gets completely eroded because it doesn't make sense for them to fulfill orders in those regions. So when you look holistically on average, or sorry, not holistically, but when you look on average, then you don't see those losses, right? You just ship goods to Singapore, for example, without realizing that it costs you so much more to fulfill orders there. And you might not be making any money at acquisition, and you have to rely on retention to turn any profit in those regions. So the goal here is then you can go back to your Shopify and you can set up different shipping zones and different tiers and rules and requirements for a specific fulfillment to be triggered, right? You don't want to ship to Singapore unless there's a certain threshold hit. Because, for example, if you're not spending any money on ads into Singapore, it's not really an aggressive market for you, but sometimes you get orders from there and it could add up to thousands of dollars, right, every month, but you still fulfill without realizing that you're losing money. Then you might just set a rule. Yes, you might lose a couple of orders here and there in those regions, but you will be making profit. And that's the main goal, because if you're not making any money, right, you're not in a better position anyways, even if you report higher revenue from those regions. So it's all about profit at the end of the day. And of course, revenue looks nice, but we got to create incentives and we got to create rules and, restrictions, so to speak, to protect profit. Otherwise, you will just work for the customer, not for your business.
Interesting. So if I'm driving this back to, for example, we're using Klaviyo, of course, Klaviyo Geeks podcast, but the one thing that I wanted to build out, I've tried a couple of things myself, but if you start adding this and sending this data back to Klaviyo on a profile base, that you can basically see, okay, this person you're talking about lifetime value here, I think, as well. So if I use the flip side of it.
Yes.
So how much lifetime value does a customer have on the, that would be a massive insight to have, I think. Just picking your brain a little bit, because the things you're saying are basically, if you're sending out things, it's costing you money to do it, then that customer is actually not profitable for your business. You should be aware of that.
Yep. And that's something that I talk about quite extensively, is lifetime contribution margin, when you actually take all of those variable costs into account. But the important distinction is that you don't apply an average. You actually try to link it to each individual order in your database before you start drawing these insights. So for example, in my consulting, what I typically do is, I'm a very data-driven guy. I know all the analysis, of course. And this is something that I will teach in the community and as part of the Optimal Numbers program. What I do is I show you the roadmap for how exactly do you put this data together to go from LTV or LTR, lifetime revenue, to lifetime contribution margin, to know exactly how much profit you make per an individual customer. So for example, and I can describe it verbally and then you can put some puzzles together without the community. So let's say you go to ShipStation, you pull a report which tells you shipping charges by order, right? There's a very simple, report that you can pull. You will get a list of all of your orders and the shipping fee that it cost you. Then you do the same sort of process in your Shopify. You pull a report of all of your orders by the same ID. Yeah. And then what you do is you cross-reference and you build a database of your ShipStation report and Shopify report. And you cross-match it using simple formulas like index and match. And you can look it up on Google or use ChatGPT to do that. You index match the charge, the shipping fee, to the order in Shopify. And now you know what the shipping fee for an individual order is. And then you can pull other data properties like geography, region. You can pull, cost of goods sold if that's already included in Shopify. If it's not, then it's an extra step that you have to do to kind of manipulate and understand what the math is. And then once you've put that data table together, you can start making calculations that have very unique look at the specific customer profile and how much profit they bring into your business. And that's how you kind of link it into the retention strategy. You sit down and you say, okay, so there's a product that a customer enters to our brand. Now, we want to identify how profitable they are at acquisition and then see if there's any potential to grow their retention based on the product they enter, right? And then you kind of look at it across the way and you realize, oh, this product is actually not as profitable for us to acquire customers at because there's no retention there and we'll lose a lot of money on fulfillment and shipping and stuff like that. So let's just focus on this higher margin product, enter them there, there's a higher repeat purchase rate with this product, and we can just continue pushing and building out the retention strategy that way.
Cool. A lot of value. Valentin, I see you frowning a bit.
Yeah, I was
processing it.
I was forming the next question in my head, but what I'm wondering, cool. Right? So I used to go to Omar's Amsterdam meetups where we met with a bunch of e-com owners, and oftentimes what I see is that regardless of their revenue level, it's really small teams. Like you get the founder and the co-founder, maybe with one, media person, and maybe one email marketer, two, 3 people in the retention team, whatever. Like depending on their scale. What I'm wondering is like, when you have I work with these people day in and day out, and you do too, I would imagine, Val. And the answer cannot be they have to work with you, by the way. How can people actually become smarter with their numbers? Where should they start? Like when you look at a team of 2 email marketers that kind of build a retention strategy for a brand, how can they become smarter with looking at the right numbers, spotting these gaps that you're mentioning here? So like I'm thinking if I would be someone working for a brand right now, and we have an agency, and some of the things that you're saying are also like overwhelming me a bit. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. What would you have like an advice there for people to get started, be a little bit smarter? Where should they spend most of their time? What dashboards should they look at? Is it in Shopify? Is it in the different tools? Like, kind of like, let's take it back a step on like more simpler advice.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I will just ride the way of promotion, and I apologize for it, but the community would be the best go-to destination. But I will give you other options as well. So the community we have a financial toolkit that when you join, you get a dashboard that includes all of these things, right? And you get an insight, you drop a couple of reports in that calculator, and you get all the dashboards, P&L. But again, that's beside the point. So how do you actually do it? Well, it's a tough one. I mean, it's just about time. How much time do you have to kind of sit down and collect all of those insights, right? Because you can, of course, without anyone feeding you all of these insights and information, you can sit down and figure stuff out. But I would say unit economics, P&L, and cohort analysis is the must-have for any marketer, any operator. So start there. Even if you don't join a specific community or take up a specific program or follow anyone on LinkedIn, just start there. Understand what those are. How does unit economics translate into the P&L? Because what unit economics really is just an order view or customer view of your P&L. That's really it. I know it sounds like, oh, well, unit economics, it's so complicated. Not really. Just multiply by the number of units and by the number of orders, you get the P&L. That's it. That's what unit economics is. So yeah. It's really not that much more complicated. I know it sounds as such, but really isn't. Figure out how you can...
It sounds fancy.
Yeah, it sounds fancy, so let's sell it. Then P&L is really very simple. You just need to simplify it to a stage that it gives you actionable insights, and that's really it. And there's a lot of detailization that happens with finance people and accountants who don't come from operator background. They just, come from corporate finance, started doing something in e-commerce, and they overcomplicate things. So simple P&L, simple unit economics that is derived from the P&L, and then cohorts. Just look at the unit economics by a specific group of customers that you're acquiring and retaining. That's it. That, as far as it goes, that's all you really need to know as a marketer to start. And then you can continue building on top of that foundation. But these 3 are essential. There's a lot of resources that you can find on YouTube, even with ChatGPT. Just ask for the basics and fundamentals of unit economics, profit and loss, and cohort analysis. And maybe ask, for some summaries or maybe some recommendations. But again, there is no one go-to place yet, right? Outside of what I'm selling, of course. But I haven't really found a good source. If someone comes across that, of course, please link it, and I will start pushing that as well, because that's amazing.
Okay. Cool. That brings a bit more clarity, hopefully, to people listening in. Cool. All right. Let's move on to the next set of questions, shall we? Let me have a quick look here, because there's a bunch of things you already covered, which I don't want to have you repeat yourself. I think we can, looking at the time as well, let's go into some mistakes and bold calls. That's section number 2. So might be a bit of a broad question, and so feel free to kind of go wherever you feel like it's more relevant. But in your years working with D2C brands, what was the most expensive mistake you've seen a brand, whether it's 7 or 8 figure make, trying to scale retention, like something that was like, oh man, I can't believe like you guys have been doing that. Like, well, what was that? Do you have an example of that?
That you're allowed to share.
That you're allowed to share.
Well, the first one is, of course, retargeting existing customers on ads. That's probably a waste of money, especially like branded keywords on Google. When someone searches your brand and you're betting on that, it's like, you're not that big. Maybe don't spend that much. If someone knows about you, chances are they will buy from you. Like they wouldn't type your name in. Of course, Nike will compete and bid on their name because they don't want anyone else to try other brands. So that makes sense. But yeah, just retargeting existing customers and branded keywords would probably be a bit of waste of money. So optimizing that. But let's go away from paid ads. Another thing is I've seen this one done. Over-investing in inserts and material that comes with the product in the box. I've seen some brands spend so much money that is unreasonable amounts of money. And I'm like, wouldn't a QR code suffice? Just embed like a QR code with a light insert. You would cut all, like I've seen an 8-figure brand spend like $300,000 on inserts a year. And I'm like,
that's mad.
That's mad, guys. Come on. It's like a thick booklet, and they hope that booklet will translate into retention. And I'm like, I think you can include just one leaflet, and you already have a mobile app, just build it up a little bit better, include instructions, guides, whatever it is, right? Pull people into that app, and that should do the trick, right? And cut the amount of spend. So yeah.
Were they able to track what came out of it?
Well, they never did. They never A/B tested. Like that's the point, right? They kind of went in. They thought they had a hypothesis that we're going to spend this much money, and we know that it's just valuable for the consumer. And I'm like, well, let's maybe test it. Let's see if there is any LTV difference. Let's cut the amount of inserts that we put in by half and just A/B test it. And then see if in 1 month we notice that there is actually an impact on 30-day repeat rate or maybe 60-day repeat rate, then we can go back to putting the inserts. But I would probably bet my kidney that there won't be any material implications.
Interesting.
I like that. It's a controversial one, I think, because I know a lot of brands that have fought me on it. It's like, no, Bogdan, it's part of our unboxing experience. But do you know what? It's like, I'm not the best example because my sensitivity to marketing is really low. But when I buy something from a brand, I buy these electrolytes that they get shipped on a subscription to me every 45 days or something. And then this brand, literally with every single shipment that they send to me, they have like this beautiful sort of, envelope, like made from this thick material. And when you go inside, it like opens really beautifully. And it's like this coupon code for my next order. Now, first of all, it's like, why do I need a coupon code for my next order? Because I'm on a subscription. So, well, I mean, I guess maybe I can buy something else.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it. And then the second of all, I was like, why do you include it in every order? Like, to your point, I'm sure that's really expensive. And I guess, again, we don't want to get bogged down on things that maybe are silly, but I really don't understand how that could actually make someone be like, yes, I'm going to spend more money with this brand, as opposed to like maybe using that money for a direct mail campaign to an active segment of customers that don't buy from you anymore. So anyway, I like that. That was a good answer. Thanks, Val. Omar, do you wanna ask the next question?
Adding to that, I have the opposite actually. So there's this brand that's selling hair products in the Netherlands, and I think I order once half a year or something. But they also include a discount voucher in their boxes. So every time I now think, hey, I need to order something, I'm like, wait, where did I put that voucher?
Okay.
And I it is a trigger for me to, hey, when I'm buying, I need it again, I'm running out. Instead of going and looking who was the least expensive one selling this product, I now know that I have a voucher, so I go back to it as well. So there are probably two ways to look at it.
But of course, not to shoot
the booklet, so.
not to shoot any shots at you, Omar, but you're in an older demographic, even though you don't look it, right? So, so of course,
all right.
Of course, maybe
not
you're
disclosing my age here, but yes.
Love that.
But still important, right?
Shots fired.
The older demographic does have a lot of money as well.
True.
So.
That's true. Absolutely. And I would say that it also comes down to your customer profile, right? If you're targeting younger demographic who are always on phones and mobile, right? Maybe they will be fine with the QR code, and maybe building out a virtual experience for them will go much farther than physical, right? And then on the flip side, if the ideal customer for you is a granny in Wisconsin, right? Maybe she will feel appreciated if she gets a nice booklet, right? And she will sit down and read through it. So it really depends on the customer profile.
All right. So I'm going a bit off script. Sorry. Okay. So we asked a question like, what is the most costly mistake or most expensive mistake? The opposite of that, like what is one of the things you've seen like that was really amazing on the retention side that maybe even surprised you?
I think anything that you do opposite of what the market is doing typically results in decent results. Like, for example, I know direct mail maybe is not as profitable anymore, but at some point people stopped doing direct mail altogether and everyone went in on ads and just retargeting customers. And someone said, oh, let's try direct mail again because no one else is doing it. And that kind of yielded decent profits for them, right? Of course, if you have a good product, that's the first and foremost. But yeah, I mean, the most effective one is simple, is just creating new good products. It's really very that simple. Honestly,
that's what I tell my clients all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, Bogdan, how can we improve retention? Launch a goddamn new product because it's been 14 months. There's no secret recipe.
But you got to be careful because you don't just launch any product, right? You really have to tie it back to the problem that the customers came to you with. Because I've seen, for example, in the hair category as well, hair loss category, I've seen someone just launch some random product that had nothing to do with hair loss. And it's like, well, let's capitalize on our brand and, you know, build something new. And it's like, well, you have these customers who have a specific problem to solve, and then you're launching something that is completely unrelated to them. Maybe a minor segment of those customers will buy that product, but chances are you have to release something that is either, you know, amplifying the effects of the hair loss solution that you're already selling, right? Or extending the, you know, extending your presence into a related category, right? That is, maybe there is a hair loss and something else as a problem that is related to that. Maybe, you know, why is hair loss happening? Well, maybe it's because there's a gut issue, for example, or maybe you are deficient in some sort of, you know, supplement. So maybe you need to expand into a supplements category as a new product, right? You know, you fix your hair loss, but to stop continuing losing hair, you need to supplement with a specific vitamin, let's say copper, for example. Copper is an important element of hair, right? So maybe you are deficient in that. So selling something that is related to hair loss, but slightly differently, would go much farther than just launching a random product without any thought.
You know a lot of things about hair loss, Val. I love that.
Yeah, look at this. I'm getting closer. My dad is bald,
really good deep dive onto the scientific research of hair loss. We have 2 hair loss supplement clients as well. So everything you just said, completely related with me.
Perfect. But, and I think on that side, if I go a bit back, and can you still hear me? My
yes
video seems to be lagging a little bit on my
end. We can hear you.
The most important thing that actually what you're talking about as well is like understanding your customers a bit better. So on the one hand, you're on the financial side looking at data. I think on the other hand, it's really important to also go deeper and really understand, okay, who are my customers? What do they want? And how do I, if I create products, how do I create products that actually make a difference for them in their life, basically what you're saying.
Yeah, and speaking to your customers, right? If you're not sure where to go from here, just launch a quick survey, right? Collect some data.
I know Omar loves that.
Them. Yeah.
Man, I think from the research we've done in the last couple of years, jobs to be done, interviews, I see that's the one most companies even forget about it, or they are afraid to actually pick up the phone and call their customers, which is such a source. It's a gold mine. If you ask me, it's a gold mine, basically.
Yeah.
You guys know that story with... Yeah, go on, Val. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to add to that. One thing that I've done is if you're too lazy or, you know, you don't want to do any customer research or screw the customer, go to your reviews and just use ChatGPT to do some sentiment analysis and just collect some insights from there. And that's the first step.
Or even quickly, sentiment is good. I'm going to add another value there. Do jobs to be done. If you don't know the process or don't know the concept, look it up. There are a lot of videos on it. I think on our Polaris channel, we also have a video we did at an event we organized, a conference we organized that talks about jobs to be done.
Yeah.
Trying to understand what are the main reasons that people are using your products. And reviews is definitely one part where you can dive in to find out if, to basically find out what the main use cases people have.
Yeah.
Besides sentiment analysis. Anyway, Bogdan, next question maybe?
Yeah, conscious of time here, so I'm going to skip the story I wanted to say because we're going to get too much in details. But let's go to email flows. So a lot of our audience, obviously, they work in Klaviyo day in and day out. They create pre-purchase email flows, post-purchase email flows, and most important than not, when it comes to retention, obviously, is the post-purchase email flow. So what I wanted to ask you, Val, is, when someone, and that could be on-site or off-site when it comes to an email flow as well, but when a brand looks at creating cross-sells, subscriptions, bundles, and stuff like that, what would you say is the most margin-efficient tactic for a second purchase push? And obviously, that can matter a lot. That can depend a lot on the type of products that you sell and how complementary your other products are. But when just creating your own little scenario there, what would you advise there?
Well, very complex question. It really varies by category, by brand, by offer. What can we do differently? I typically like to look at the, like I've already kind of hinted at that, product LTV, right? Looking at LTV of a customer based on the product that they enter, and then what do they cross-sell into? And tools like Lifetimely and Triple Whale, and there's actually another one, Decile, which is kind of neat. They provide you demographic data for a customer segment. Look it up. It's quite a nice tool. Actually better than Triple Whale, to be honest. I'm shooting shots here.
We'll cut that.
Well, is it a partner?
Well, no. Yeah, but it's all right. Don't worry about it.
Okay. No worries. Yeah, so I would say Decile is a good solution, and then you can find the overlap between products and make strategic bets, right? Of course, you can't know for sure that someone will cross-sell or upsell into a specific product, but you can maximize the chances of them doing so based on the historic behavior of your other customers, and also common sense, right? Just sit down and think, okay, what would be a logical next step for a customer? I'm surprised no brands do that, to be honest. They don't do like a product journey, right? Okay, so our customer starts here, then they go into this, then they continue with this. They kind of sell one product and then hope that someone comes back. And it's like, well, customers are just as confused, right? What do we do next? And that's how actually retention falls apart, because you have to build a next logical interaction for the customer. And email is just a tool for that. Right? But if you don't have the logic mapped out on the back end, emails will not be as effective as they could be. So you have to sit down and really think through, okay, if a customer starts here, then the next logical step is here. So use some mind mapping to kind of think through the steps for each customer. What are the branches, decision-making trees, right? Okay, they stopped here, so maybe they should go here. So do the products first and then translate that into proper email sequences that actually add value rather than just shoot shots in the dark without, any clarity in the strategy.
I have a quick question for you.
You already some of the data is already in your database. So basically on natural behavior, you already can see what natural patterns look like. So I think that might also be something you can really reuse to create and see if that actually has an impact. If you're start boosting, amplifying that for people that are following the same path.
Yep. Exactly. I'll give you one example. One of my clients is a hair styling products, and they have a bunch of different products, the creams, gels, kits, accessories, all of it, right? So we kind of had to sit down and figure out, okay, what is the most attractive entry product? And then what do people buy along with individual products that we don't have upsells and cross-sells set up for on the website, and we don't do proper email marketing for? And we found a bunch of gels that went with specific creams, right? And we managed to put them as a bundle together and have cross-sells and upsells set up. So as a result, we managed to boost the repeat rate by 5%. And I mean by 5%, not 5%, but it went from 15% to 20%, 30-day repeat rate, simply because we were recommending relevant products that actually solve the problem for the customer.
Wow, that's cool. Is that a UK brand or a US brand?
It's an Australian brand.
Australian brand. Wow.
Yeah.
Way off.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have a few more minutes. Do we want to ask one more question, Omar, or do we want to go to the rapid fire?
I think we can go to the rapid fire.
All right.
If you still have, if there's any burning one that you want to still ask.
No, nothing burning. Should be fun to go to the rapid fire. Okay, cool. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. and you will answer with the first thing that comes to your head. You feel free to think for a few seconds. Some of them you might not know off the bat. So one number every founder should check daily.
ROAS. No, just kidding. that was the joke. That was the joke. Yeah, almost got you. No, I would say profit contribution dollars every day.
Okay, wow, cool, nice. Haven't heard that one. LTV or margin, which ones should you optimize first?
Ooh, well, if you're in a category that has tight margins, LTV, of course, because there's very limited you can do there. But if you are just wasting margin along the way, optimize margin first and then focus on LTV, because that will give you more profit at acquisition, will make you more competitive with customer acquisition costs, and then you can focus on retention.
Oh, Omar, your turn.
Cool. Most overrated tactic in retention marketing.
A lot of email sequences. It's like I know volume matters, but at some point I've seen no incremental revenue from a subsequent step in an email flow, especially welcome flows. I've seen like 20 emails in a welcome flow.
Oh,
and it's
man,
like,
you're so right.
Yeah, it's like your 10 emails are probably wasting time and effort for your customer and probably destroying your brand because there's zero revenue reported for those steps.
Yeah, that's also something. What happens if you remove emails? Does it have a negative impact on the numbers? If it doesn't, then you probably have something that doesn't even provide value for customers. So
based on what Val said, we did that. Our welcome flows now only have 2 to 3 emails max, but like just timed based on that sort of time to purchase cohort analysis, and they perform much better than having 10 emails across 10 days. But anyway, go on. Next question.
Spreadsheet, Looker, or Notion. Where do you do your best thinking?
Google Sheets, Looker, Notion.
None of that? No, you don't use Notion.
Mind mapping?
For analysis, Notion? No, not at all. I use Merle.
It's like for brainstorming.
Yeah, for brainstorming, I use Merle, which is kind of nice, and it's free as well for two boards. So sometimes I use Miro boards, pretty nice as well.
Yeah, they're popular.
Yeah, for brainstorming. ClickUp is nice for project management and brainstorming, so it's pretty decent. But for data mining and numbers crunch and Google Sheets and Excel.
Cool.
Makes
Better
sense.
KPI, repurchase rate or payback period?
Payback period.
Well,
that was fast. Right. He knew that one already.
I didn't even finish the question. He's like, rapid fire.
Next one.
No, that was it, man.
Those
that
were
was
the
it.
questions.
Cool.
Thanks.
Well, let me give you a quick explanation for why payback period, because it translates into cash conversion cycle, right? The goal of the marketing team is to get the return as fast as possible so that we can fix the back-end leaks in the form of cash conversion cycle. So if we can get that cash faster, then there's no problems in the business. Repeat rate comes secondary because, of course, then we can maximize the number of customers repeating, but the payback is much more important.
Love that.
Cool.
Nice. Okay, cool. Well, honestly, Omar, would you agree that this is probably the most value-packed episode we had so far? Like actual meaningful advice. Val, thank you so much, man. This was awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Honestly.
And for me, that was the main reason also to ask Val to appear here. And maybe we can do a part 2 of this as well. I'm
for sure we can.
certain that a lot of people will reach out to us. We'll also reach out to you, Val. A lot of new concepts that, looking 2 years back, for me were new when we started talking, kind of like opened up my mind. And for me, this is something that actually everyone should be aware of to understand how to drive business value. Of course, what you were saying, it takes time. You need to have time to analyze all these things, to make sure that you make the right decisions on things as well. And probably a lot of new concepts that people are not aware of at this point. So it will take time to learn those as well. But once you add these to your daily work, the amount of impact that you can give is so much better and much higher and much more tied to the actual business and not only looking at revenue numbers that look nice, but in the end maybe are not driving business forward. Yeah.
And just to kind of a quick tip as well, for anyone who is kind of like fearing AI replacing them, AI will never replace multi-dimensional people, especially the ones who think creatively and strategically. And as soon as you become that person, the chances of you being replaced by AI are slim to none. So, of course, it's kind of a word of encouragement. It's a threat, but it's also an opportunity, right? What can we do differently now or start investing for the future so that AI doesn't replace us, but amplifies our output. And we can do things that AI cannot do. And multidimensional thinking is something that AI cannot do just yet. Piecing things together, like finance and marketing, we piece them together, we get something special. AI is pretty bad at that. If you try to get a couple of insights from AI, from ChatGPT, it will give you a bunch of shit that doesn't really make sense. Unless you don't know anything about it, then you will be like, oh yeah, that's pretty smart. But then, yeah, based on experience, that doesn't stand true.
So true. I keep hearing the same thing as well. Like, you need to know what you're talking about to be able to spot what's right, what's not right. Yeah. Otherwise, it will just tell you a good story. But things will get better as well. So, all right, you wanna close down, Bogdan?
Yes. Well, thanks so much for coming, Valentin. Honestly, it was great having you here. For everyone listening in, watching us on YouTube, we're gonna push this everywhere. What's the best place for people to find you on? LinkedIn? I'll give you a little plug here for promotion.
I mean, I've already promoted as much as possible, but yeah, community, LinkedIn would be the best go-to place. I will also set up a Slack channel again. I tried one last year that didn't work out. But this time, link to the community, you can get free access to me anytime, any questions. I'm always happy to help and make this community better and stronger. So
awesome.
Cool. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thanks so much for listening. We are back in probably 2 weeks with the next episode. So look out for that. Don't forget to give us a 5-star on Spotify. That's our most used channel, and it really, really helps us. You just go at the top, click on the 5 stars, and then submit. And if you didn't like it, then please don't give us any rating at all.
Give us a feedback. Send us an email or give a comment that we can actually use that input to drive better value next time.
100%. Did we set up that email address, Omar?
I think we did. We need to check it out, but
Go on our website. I think we have a form there where you can get in touch with us. All the episodes are also going to be there. KlavioGeeks.com live right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you on the next one.
All right. Bye-bye.